Welcome back to Payton's Playbook. Today we're diving into a game-changing moment in college sports. Starting July 1st, D1 schools can directly pay athletes. Yep, you've heard that, all thanks to a massive House versus NCAA settlement approved by Judge Claudia Wilkin. So let's break this down. This settlement does two major things. $2.8 billion total payout for athletes between 2016 and 2024, covering years when athletes weren't allowed to profit from NIL. Starting July 1st, schools can distribute up to $20.5 million per year, pulled from revenue streams like TV contracts, ticket sales, and sponsor money. That cap grows roughly 4% annually, potentially hitting $33 million by 2035. So think of it like this. It's not just NIL anymore. It's institutional revenue sharing straight from the schools. So how do we make sure schools are playing by the rules? That is where you enter the College Sports Commission, CSC, an independent NCAA created body with its own oversight and enforcement power. And then there's NIL Go, a Deloitte-run reporting system. Any NIL deal above $600 must be logged and vetted for fair market value. Together, these pieces provide tracking of institutional payments, oversight of third-party NIL deals, roster compliance, and dispute resolution. This is transparency and accountability like we've never seen before in college sports. How about scholarship limits? Gone. Roster limits? In. Now that schools can offer full rides to everyone they want, but they are capped to a roster size like 105 football players. Roster limits apply to football with 105, basketball 15, baseball 34, down from 40. Current athletes are grandfathered in. They won't lose eligibility or scholarships if cuts happen. But after that, walk-ons and deep roster players might be squeezed out. It's estimated up to 5,000 athletes could get cut. Big schools are digging in. Programs like Texas, Texas A&M, Houston, Duke, and Cincinnati are opting in, ready to compete hard under this new model. Texas A&M even cut its budget by $10 million and increased scholarships from $255 to $410 to prepare. But others, like small FCS programs, some Ivy League and Houston Christian, are opting out. They cite compliance costs and infrastructure hurdles. And then there's the rub. Opting in becomes a recruiting lever. Athletes may choose schools that pay directly. That could widen the gap between the big fish of the schools and the rest. Not all athletes will get paid equally, and you have to remember that. The $20.5 million pool is up to the schools to distribute any way they like. Performance-based, maybe it's their seniors. Positional priority, like the quarterback. Expect football and men's basketball to dominate, share roughly 10 to 17 million of that pot each year. A formula will sort payouts. Approximately 88,000 former athletes already filed claims. Funds also cover walk-ons and Olympic sports. About 5% of residual goes there. So let's dive into the big question everyone is wondering. Title IX equity. Will women's sports get a fair slice? The law requires it, but historic inequality might persist without enforcement. Boosters in NIL. Will this transparency reduce under-the-table deals or just push them even farther underground? Union talk. With institutions paying athletes directly, the argument for treating them as employees is stronger. A union push could be next. State versus federal law. Some states have their own NIL rules. Will this settlement override them? Likely yes, but legal challenges could come from this. Congressional protections. Lawmakers are considering bills to protect the settlement and grant NCAA limited antitrust exemptions. So here's what's happening next. June 30th, non-Power 5 schools must notify intent to opt in. July 1st, direct payment begins. Rosters must be adjusted. Revenue shares roll out. Over the next few years, watch how Title IX compliance plays out, schools allocate the money, state legislation evolves. There's a lot that you need to watch throughout this. The settlement isn't just historic, it's unfinished. The game's still in progress. Now I'm throwing it to you because this moment in college sports history isn't just big, it's personal. Think about this. If you're a high school recruit, would this influence where you commit? If you're a parent, would this change how you view college athletics as a career path for your child? And if you're a fan, are you excited about this? Maybe you are if you're Ohio State, or concerned about what comes next. This is more than money. It's about power shifting from institutions to athletes. And with that shift comes questions about identity, fairness, and what are college sports supposed to be? How should we be viewing college sports now? We're on the edge of something huge. Some call it progress. Others call it very chaotic. But either way, it's here. July 1st is right around the corner. So I want to hear from you. Will this ruin the tradition of college sports or finally make it fair? Did NIL already ruin the tradition of college sports? How should schools balance paying out athletes with funding all sports equally, not just football and basketball? And what's the next domino to fall? Will the athletes be unionized? Will players strike? Will big-time programs break away from the NCAA entirely? Be sure you subscribe, drop your comments and takes in the comments below. Share this with a teammate, coach, fan, or player who needs to hear this. And don't forget, you need to turn on that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you do not miss what's next. Because this story, it is only the beginning. And Payton's Playbook is where you're going to follow it every step of the way. So be sure you comment, subscribe, share, and I will see you next time on Payton's Playbook.